ambitious professionals, it's Linda Rayner of lindarayner.com guiding you to a career and life you'll truly enjoy. And I am so excited for today's episode because I will be interviewing someone who, just like me, started off in a very traditional, stable career path and ended up veering away from that path and created his own career because he followed his passion. Michael Kravshik CPA CA is the founder and CEO of Luminary, the digital community that makes CPAs' lives easier and careers progress faster. Prior to founding Luminary, Michael was the CFO/COO of wearable technology startup Gesture Logic. At Gesture Logic, Michael ran product management, finance, marketing, and general operations, helping to raise $1.9 million, growing the team to 15, and launching a successful crowdfunding campaign. Luminary makes CPAs' lives easier and careers progress faster. With over 8,000 members, they are the largest digital community of CPAs in Canada. They connect CPAs with jobs, volunteer opportunities, education, events, networking content, and more. Michael, thanks so much for being here on my channel. This is actually the first time I've ever had a guest on my show, so thanks so much for being here.
Great to be here, Linda. You know what? I'm happy to have the honor of the first guest.
All right, so not many people on my channel are actually familiar with what you do and who you are. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about youngster Michael and, how did you get to where you are today?
As you know, I started as a chartered professional accountant like you did. And after a couple of years of working at a Big Four audit firm and then working in consulting, I decided that wasn't the path that I wanted to take. And I went back to school and did what every good chartered accountant does and got a master's degree in counterterrorism.
Wow.
Yeah. So, just the standard path. And ended up working in that space at Scotiabank for a little bit before entering the startup world, and that's what kind of got me on my current path. I worked at a wearable tech company as a CFO, COO, and eventually decided to start my own when I left that company.
That is awesome. That's very cool. Counterterrorism, that's not something that I don't think a lot of people go into. So that's really interesting. So just like you had mentioned, you had the direction from an early age kind of to go on that CPA route. What was your initial draw to becoming an accountant initially?
Yeah, good question. I mean, when I look back on it, I think I was always pretty comfortable with numbers. I knew that I could do that. I knew that it was a good building block to kind of start a career path on. I think that maybe I was a little naive in terms of how to actually go and take that a different direction. I think I was pretty confident right from the beginning that I didn't want to be a traditional accountant coming out of getting my designation. At business school, it was, what are you going to do? Accounting, finance, consulting, and marketing. Those were like the four options. It was like you got one of four to go after, as if those are the only four things that exist.
Yeah.
And that is not the case. But, you're kind of young and impressionable and you feel like you have to take some predefined path. And so I kind of boxed myself into those four categories, and really finance and accounting were the ones that stuck out on top. And when I started going to a lot of the information sessions and meeting a lot of the people, ultimately it was actually the people that made me decide to go to accounting rather than finance. Thinking back on it, I wish that I had been more open to kind of looking at different options as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because the same thing kind of happened to me. I always thought, it's accounting or HR, marketing, and I think finance, and literally those were the four options that, when you're someone who has a business degree, you think that those are the only routes that you can take. So that's cool that it kind of happened the same way for you, and now you're doing something completely different, which I really want to talk about. In terms of you making the decision to leave your CPA consulting background behind, you went ahead and you founded your current company, Luminary. And why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about that, what that means, what it does, what you do, and what it's all about.
It's a great question, Linda, because it's It's funny how I took a particular career path, pivoted away from that, and now find myself, using that skill set and that background in my current role, starting my own company. And I'll start by, I guess, introducing my company, Luminary. What we do is we make CPAs' lives easier and their careers progress faster. And that also includes the CPA candidates and students that are looking to go in that direction as well. So what that means in practical terms is we're really like an online digital community of CPAs, and we have a great platform behind it that allows us to connect CPAs with the opportunities that matter to them. So that could mean jobs, but it also means volunteer opportunities, networking events, educational opportunities, really fun content that highlights CPAs that have gone in various directions, including one that became a YouTube star. And also has, everything across the gamut, from serious articles about our profession to fun memes that accountants will find interesting and hopefully laugh at. Obviously, with an overarching kind of focus on their professional lives.
And, well, okay, so let's take it a step back, because that's a lot. That's awesome what you guys do. That is crazy. What does Luminary actually mean? Where did the name come from?
What it means is, technically the word is an actual English word, which a lot of people I don't think have heard of, I guess because it's kind of obscure. But it has two meanings. One is celestial bodies of light, so things like stars and nebulae. So that isn't why we used the name. But the other meaning, the one that we did use it, is a luminary is kind of a thought leader or somebody who's accomplished greatness within their given field. So you might say that Mark Zuckerberg is a luminary of the tech scene. So yeah, it's just, overall what we mean by it is that, people who get their CPA designations are luminaries. They are experts and thought leaders in a field. And we want to help them, live that experience.
I think that's wonderful, and I think that's great, and I think it even closely ties into what I do here through my channel, helping other professionals. Not all the professionals that watch my channel are CPAs, but they are specialized in their own fields, and I think it's so great that you've created a community for like-minded professionals to get together and be able to develop their careers just by having events and having opportunities available to them that a lot of professionals aren't finding. I want to kind of tie it back to you in terms of, so you run this amazing company that's created this community for professionals, CPAs in particular. There was something within you that led you to this career path that you're on right now, this business that you've developed. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? What was that voice? What did it sound like? And really, what led you there?
This is something I think about a lot because I'm not that old yet, hopefully, and I've already had kind of like 3, maybe 4 career paths, depending on how you want to look at it. And so I've certainly, as we built the platform itself, we thought a lot about how people think about their careers and how they pursue the various opportunities that they have. I started in accounting because I thought I was good at it. But when I came out of it, I realized that on a day-to-day basis, the tasks that I was doing and I was responsible for weren't the things that really got me going. And through a strange set of circumstances, I met an engineer that was starting a business, and I started helping him out on the side as I was doing whatever else I was doing in my life. And that was a really, really great experience. I got to get my feet wet in the startup environment. I got to use my skill sets in a way that actually added value to a company. And I started to get kind of the startup bug. So I think for anybody out there that's kind of thinking about what you want to do in your career, think about it in terms of the function rather than, people, follow your dreams, follow your passion. It's like, I actually agree with that, but with a caveat. If you love cars, doesn't mean that you want to be an accountant at a car company. Maybe you want to be a marketer. And maybe to be a marketer at a car company, you first have to be a marketer at a real estate company. And that's what builds the skill sets in that field to go and get the ultimate kind of ideal job you want. But in the meantime, you'll actually enjoy it a lot more because you'll enjoy the day-to-day rather than kind of getting through it just because you're aiming for some later career that you might, or job or role that you might be able to get.
That's great. And that's funny because even when I'm working with my clients or when people reach out to me and they ask me, how do I find a career that I would love to do? It's, you really have to think about, exactly to your point, you have to think about, well, what are you going to be doing on a day-to-day basis just at that level? I think a lot of people think about, I want a company that has this kind of culture. I want to be working with these kinds of products, these kinds of services. That at the end of the day is irrelevant if you're not liking what you're doing, what your responsibilities are on a day-to-day. So great points. So a lot of my viewers who are watching are people who are ambitious, they're motivated, they really want to progress in their own careers, and perhaps they want to make a complete change in their careers like you did. Maybe some of them even want to start their own businesses. But as part of all that, they do struggle with confidence in the sense that they're not sure if they're capable of going into that new career. And so, for you, this is just a question about that topic in general, confidence. What does confidence mean to you, and how have you developed confidence over the years?
Ultimately, if you're not ready to take that leap, and you haven't kind of brought yourself psychologically to the point where you're comfortable taking that risk, then it can be very hard. I think, the confidence to do it, for me, when I did it, and I'm not even necessarily saying that this is the right way, but I was more running away from a career path that didn't suit me. And I knew I was honest enough with myself to say that even though I can do this job, this isn't where I'm going to thrive. This isn't where I'm going to achieve the most that I can, because I'm not engaged with it in the kind of way that I need to be. I think ultimately when you end up in a place that is right for you, and again, I'm referring to more the tasks that you're doing, the role that you're playing, then you end up succeeding. Assumedly, you have some natural affinity or kind of, let's say, skill set in that area, but you also are that much more motivated to become better at it. As a startup founder, the thing that is very much the case is like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think no entrepreneurs really know what they're doing. And it's being able to approach that and say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can figure out what to do. And that's what my skill set is. I learned how to be a social media person. However good I ended up being at it, it was enough. I learned all about this thing that I had never looked at before in my life. And what I think the confidence to do that just came from like, look, I'm a reasonably smart person. I can approach this situation logically and solve the problem, whatever it is. If you find that you're looking to make a career jump that you're not so confident in that space, the best thing that I can say is figure out a way to dip your toe in. And that's what I did with the startup world, right? Like there was a guy that I knew that was starting a company, and I just helped him out on the side. It's a really important thing to go and talk to people that do it, and at different levels, what it looks like. I think the thing that made me realize I don't want to be a traditional accountant or stay at an audit firm is I looked at what partners did. And I said, it's not the life that I want. So talk to those people. Understand what that job is before you jump in. Before you go and quit your job and go and get a new degree in some different field, go and talk to the people that work there and see what that life is like.
All right, so let's take it back to Luminary, because in terms of one of the aspects of the business is that you offer a job platform that posts positions for CPAs who are interested in trying different kinds of roles. And so because you're seeing all these different opportunities out there in the market and you're seeing people applying in, what are the trends that you're noticing when it comes to what hiring managers are looking for, what people are wanting out of jobs? Like, what are you seeing?
The biggest thing that I've learned getting into the whole job space is how much more subjective it is than you would think. I had a situation where a client really liked a candidate, but they wore purple socks to the interview and they thought that was too flashy. The number one piece of advice I would have is don't think that you know what the person is looking for going into it. Understand that you're kind of taking a shot in the dark at every point, and even if you're a perfect candidate, the reasons that you don't get chosen might be things that you never would have imagined. At the end of the day, communication skills are the be all and end all. People, you get it, your resume gets you an interview, but your communication skills get you the job. And it doesn't really matter what job that is, even if it's a job that doesn't really require communication skills. It's all about building rapport and interest and excitement from the person that's interviewing you. I mean, it is a sale. You are selling yourself as a product. And you can't get away from that. People are still people. We are all emotional, subjective beings. And when somebody walks into an interview and you like that person, you're just more likely to hire them. And as much as people want it to be different, it just isn't. Even though on paper you look perfect for a job, as soon as you open your mouth or get in front of them, they might go, absolutely not. I mean, yes, you just rub people the wrong way, or you rub people the right way, and that's a lot. It's a lot less structured than you think.
Yeah, I really like everything you said. I absolutely agree. And it's funny because a lot of people that I work with, or the people that watch this channel, they feel that they're the right fit for the job. Why are they not getting hired? And it has to do with all these intangible qualities that they just didn't realize. And a lot of the time people think, I've worked so hard in my career. I've done everything I could to get to where I'm at. I'm ready for that next step. Why are they not taking me? Well, you haven't developed everything. There's always room for learning. There's always room for improvement within yourself. And it takes a lot of self-awareness, I think. And the ones that are able to move up in their careers have that level of self-awareness, have that willingness to accept the areas where they can improve on. So I know that, startups in general, there are some, like Facebook, for example, that have grown into amazing, huge giants. And there are others, other startups that may never get there. And for you... Most of them, yes, most of them. And for you who currently runs a startup, as far as I can tell, you guys have grown tremendously over the last year and a half, 2 years, and you guys are definitely on the incline. So in your opinion, what do you think it is that you're doing differently that's allowed you to grow to the level that you have to this point, and that's going to allow you to continue to thrive in this complex startup environment?
Well, I'll say two things that I think myself and my co-founder Adam, we really take to heart, and we are almost, let's call it like fundamentalists about how we approach the business in this way. The first is something that we actually just mentioned, which is understanding that we don't know everything, and really understanding that, not just paying lip service to it, but knowing that no matter what, we don't know what's right. And being open to listening to smart people that give you ideas. And you don't necessarily act on everything that everybody tells you, but if you're constantly open to the fact that you might be wrong, then you always are open. You never get bogged down into that kind of tunnel vision that a lot of people can get to. So that's number one. Number two is we are also fairly philosophically, I'd say, again, very rigid or fundamentalist about what we call the lean startup methodology. What that means is you build the worst version of what you want to build and you put it in front of people and you test it and you obtain feedback and then you iterate. And you do that over and over and over and over again. And so we went out and we had a one-on-one conversation with over 500 people, going just back and forth. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Then after 10 of them, we kind of reorient how we think we were going to build it. It even comes to as simple as little wording that we would put on the page. We'd watch people go through our sign up before we launched, and you'd see them sit there for a moment and contemplate what the heck they're doing on one part of the process. And by that you go, okay, something's wrong there. We got to make this more intuitive, more easy. Even though to us it made a whole lot of sense, I think that's what links the two things that I brought up is you have to follow the market. You have to understand that you're building something for other people and not just for yourself. And the only way that you can really, really buy into that is understanding that you're wrong a lot.
I feel like that's actually really closely tied to, I'm making a link, but closely tied to interviewing. Because for a lot of candidates who are looking for jobs, and just as you looking for advice or funding from venture capitalists and whatnot, it's the same idea where you're going in front of strangers, people who are either going to hire you or they're going to take you on as part of their group or whatever it is, and you're trying to impress them. You're trying to meet their standards and their expectations. And the only way to really sell yourself to them effectively is by knowing what it is that they really want from you.
Yeah.
So if you know
100%.
what the other side is really thinking and what their perspective is, and you fully understand that, then you're going to be able to portray yourself authentically, because you'll still be yourself, but you'll still be able to portray yourself in the way that they'll fully get it and they'll fully understand. Awesome. Okay, great. So I really want to ask about this because I think a lot of our viewers are struggling a little bit. For the ones that have been looking for a job for a while and are recognizing that a lot of people, professionals, they take on careers because they feel that that specific career is going to be a stable career path for them. It's going to offer them security. And what we're seeing now, and I'm sure you've been seeing this as well, a lot of companies are cutting costs. They're restructuring. People at the mid to senior level in their careers, they're being let go. And that's crazy because a lot of them thought that they would be at their companies till retirement. And now people are realizing, no, this is not happening for them. So what would your advice be for people now knowing that this is the reality, that you don't get to keep your job for the next 10 years as you would assume?
Yeah.
What's your advice for them in terms of how would they navigate having a stable career, still being able to provide security for themselves, but knowing that they may not be able to keep their job for all that long?
It's an important question because I think that security is to a certain extent always a false reality. You want to create it for yourself, but it doesn't always exist. In this economy right now, that's probably amplified. There's really only one way to, I think, kind of buffer yourself from that. It's to just constantly be learning. You can't go, I know this thing and that'll be great for the rest of my career. And if you're 3 years away from retirement, then sure. But you always have to have a learning mentality all the time. And as I said previously, it really does come down to soft skills, because if you're totally unqualified for a job, you can still get that job.
I love that, because the truth is, if you're someone who's ambitious and you're motivated and you want to keep moving up in your career, the likelihood of you wanting the same job that you had before is, slim. You're wanting a job that's different, that's challenging, that's going to be outside of what you've been doing. And so it's really about going after those careers, but knowing how to get them as well. So that leads me into my last sort of, action step for our viewers here, because I like to give them some tips on how they can sort of apply what we talked about. For you, Michael, what would you say to our viewers? What is one thing that they would need to be doing, professional would need to be doing, if they truly want to get noticed, land more interviews, and finally get that job that they would love?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I think what it really comes down to is being memorable. You always have to look at it from the hiring manager or recruiter's standpoint, the person that you're trying to impress. They're seeing lots of people. You're not the only person. Usually it's a huge stack of 100 resumes. And if you're just one of the many, then you're just one of the many. You got to stick out. So that might be as simple as, when you get asked a question in the application process, saying something that's quite unique and different. It could mean going and trying to build some sort of rapport with the hiring manager. So maybe you grew up in the same town, or you went to the same high school, or you both like playing basketball or collecting stamps. It really doesn't matter. Anything that will have you stick out in that person's mind the next day and the next week, that's ultimately how you're going to do it. And I think you should always think about it as if you were that other person. And what would make you, remember somebody else? When you look back at the last week of your life, what do you remember and why do you remember it? And try to apply that to the situation.
No, I think that's awesome. I think being memorable is exactly the point that you need to have. If you're just going to sound and look like everyone else in that interview room, then unfortunately they're just not going to remember you. So that's key. Well, first, Michael, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. This has been awesome. I think our viewers are going to really enjoy this conversation that we had. And so again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. And, I hope it's helpful. And for anybody who happens to be a CPA, just check out luminary.ai. So Luminary, as it's spelt on my shirt, .ai, and I think we'll be able to add a lot of value to your professional life.
Otherwise, they can follow you on social media as well?
Yeah, probably the best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. So I'm sure my name will be somewhere in the YouTube link here, because I won't spell it because it's complicated and annoying. But find me. I am the only one, I promise you. So, shoot me a note, and usually within a couple of days, I'll be able to get back to you.
Great. Well, awesome. Now, if after watching this video, you've realized that you really are wanting to make that next career move into something that's slightly different from what you've been doing, and you're just struggling with getting those job offers, then feel free to reach out to me. You can head on over to my website, lindarayner.com/standoutgethired, where you'll learn about my one-on-one coaching program. You just have to fill out the application form, and if I feel that we are a match, then I will reach out to you and we can talk further from there. If you like this video, then please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.